So now that we've got the web page working here on our local computer using the local web server, everything seems to be going well. We need to upload this to the real web server so that we can access it from everywhere. The web server we're going to be using is Instruct. The first thing that you need to do for Instruct is to map a drive. You get into the computer screen here, click Map Network Drive. I'm going to pick Z. You can pick any letter you would like. The path is // that's the one above the enter key. Instruct.biz.uiowa.edu /courses /6K183 / and then your Hawk ID. Reconnect at logon is a good idea, and then we'll click on Finish. And now we've got a mapped drive here. And now we're in Instruct. So probably the easiest way to get it started is just to grab the file off the desktop here and copy it to Instruct. Now remember, we said when we're working with Visual Web Developer Express, it's a good idea to work off of your desktop. Visual Web Developer Express does not like to work off a mapped drive. So you don't want to point it here, you want to point it here. And then we'll copy those changes over. So after we've got the directory on the web server, let's give it a test. http:// this time, the one under the question mark. Instruct.biz.uiowa.edu courses 6K183, your Hawk ID / and the name of the directory, in this case test1. And we come up with an error. So we've got a couple of reasons for the error. Number one, we need to make it an application directory on Instruct. So let's open up a new tab here and let's go right to Instruct. Just right to the root. Click on the Student Account Management System. And this is kind of a slow process. Sometimes it'll take a little bit. It looks going a little faster today. Your Hawk ID and password. Here it seems to be taking a little longer. And then we're just going to drill down into here until we find our folder. So 6K183, Colbert, that's me. Test1 is the directory I want to make an application directory. So I left click it once out here to highlight it. Click Create Application Directory. Successfully created. And if I go look at it again, it's changed. Alright, so the icon looks different. I now know that it is an application directory. So I can try it again. And I'm still having a problem. This line right here is the one that's causing grief. So we need to remove that. So I'm going to come back to my desktop, get into the test folder. I'm going to open web config with Notepad++. And I'm just simply going to remove that line. Save it. I'm going to copy this web config off of my desktop into my Instruct folder. I'm going to overwrite the web.config file that's on Instruct. Okay, so now these two directories are just mirror images of each other still. And now I'll give it a test. And it seems to be working correctly. So there's those two things. You need to clean up that web config file, and you need to set it to an application directory in order for it to work on Instruct. So now keep in mind, as I'm going and I'm using my Web Developer Express tool to make changes to the site and everything, I'll want those changes to come up here. If I simply grab this folder and copy it to Instruct every time, what I actually do is overwrite the application directory settings on Instruct, and I have to go back and create a new one all the time. So if you're going to do just the changes, you have to go into the files for each of the folders and copy just the files over. Don't copy that root directory. There's actually a much easier way to do it that I'll show you here in just a moment. For now, we're going to close the Instruct. We're just working in the folder on our local machine, right here off of desktop. We're going to create a new folder, and let's just call it Images. And you can stick anything in there. I got this baseball image from Wikipedia. Copy it into it. So now I'm actually adding files. I've modified files and whatnot here in the directly in the test folder. I haven't been using that Visual Web Developer tool. So now I want to go back to Visual Web Developer. I'll pull it up. Now that I've got it up, the first thing I want to do is there's been some changes. I've modified this web config file, and there's an images folder. So I want to come up here, left click to select this directory in Solution Explorer, right click it, and do a refresh folder. Okay, when I do that, I picked up that new web config. I picked up that images folder we created with the baseball picture in it. Okay, all of those things, everything that was down here on the desktop that I've been using is now available to me here in Visual Web Developer, and everything is up to speed. Now, next thing I want to do is have an easy way to synchronize the files between Visual Web Developer and Instruct without doing all the copying and remember what files were changed. So I'm going to go up here to Website, Copy Website. Over here I can see I have the source, which is Visual Web Developer. I'm going to connect. I'm going to pick that mapped drive, and I'm going to pick the folder of the destination on Instruct. Now I see I have them on Instruct. I can refresh everything. I can select these files and synchronize. I'm going to use the source. Okay, now I have everything all synced up. I need to move this images folder over. Now I've done that. Okay, so they're the same on the source, which is on my desktop, and the destination, which is on Instruct. Go back up a level. So now I can come here into Visual Web Developer. I'm done with that, so I'll close it out. So I can add in a couple of things here. I'll stick that baseball picture, so let me go to the toolbox. I will go into HTML, grab an image, and I just left click and drag it out here, or I can put my cursor there and then double click the toolbox, and it'll put it there. I'm going to switch over to source. Image source is going to be ./, which means from here. I want to go into images, and the image is baseball.jpg. And for an alt, I'm going to give it baseball. Okay. So if I view in browser, I'll see here we're using the local web server. All right. I see the picture. Everything's working good here on the source. If I look at it on Instruct, the picture hasn't come over yet. So we're still working off the local source, but we haven't copied it up to Instruct. So I'll go back into my file, copy website. I can see that this file has now changed. So I can highlight it and upload it. Alright, so now that I've got the synchronization between the two, I can come back here and I can test it off of Instruct again. Now what I have on my source is what I have on Instruct, and everything is working well. If you are on campus, mapping drives work well, and this is the easiest way to do it, and then use that copy web page to synchronize between the two. If you are off campus, you're going to need to FTP into Instruct, and when you FTP into Instruct, you'll have to set the encryption type. So it gets a little tricky there. I will put up in the slides, there are the instructions that you need for the encryption settings. The host name, your username is just your Hawk ID, and your password is just your Hawk ID password. So those are instructions are in there. If you're having problems with a specific FTP client getting connected to Instruct, please see me, and I'll help you, guide you through that individually. So there we have it, getting our files from Visual Web Developer to Instruct. Remember two very important things. Work locally, so work off of the folder that's here on your desktop. If you try to work out of Instruct, it will have a problem. It will not work. The problem is not specific, it's just kind of a range of kind of screwy problems that just, it doesn't quite work right. Also remember, when you want to copy the files from test, or from the local here on your desktop to the folder and Instruct, don't replace the folder or you'll replace that application directory. You have to get into the files of each one and then copy those files over. Easiest way to do that probably is to set up that copy website in Visual Web Developer and use that.